Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review, and today we're taking a look at the brand new NECA Gargoyles Goliath. And I can't believe I'm even saying that. This is kind of surreal to finally have a figure of this awesome character. Gargoyles is a franchise that I feel should have been tackled a long time ago in the action figure world, in the modern action figure world, I should say, because companies are doing such a great job with all these different old school franchises. I kind of feel like Gargoyles has been kind of forgotten and left in the dust. For the past, I would say maybe 3 or 4 years, whenever somebody asks me what's something that I would want some action figures of, I always say Gargoyles. So I'm so freaking excited to finally have a Goliath figure, man. It's just kind of surreal. I'm gonna try to temper my excitement about the fact that we even have a Goliath figure and just try to focus on the quality of the figure, but it's gonna be tough because I'm just so damn happy to finally have a figure of this awesome character. But let's go ahead and get into it, starting off with the packaging. First off, we have this huge box. I wasn't expecting this box to be so big, but it makes sense because of what's inside. But man, this box is freaking huge. We get some really nice artwork up here of Goliath looking all crazy. I love how they have the artwork where it shows the wings coming over like the cape. That's something very interesting, like an interesting design choice that they had back in the cartoons. Unfortunately, spoiler, this figure can't necessarily achieve that, but I just love that they have it right here. Hopefully it means in the future they'll give us another Goliath with his wings like that. But this artwork looks really good. We've got him like on a building here. We've got like a city in the background. We got some lightning up here, and then down here it says Gargoyles Goliath Ultimate Action Figure. And then on the side of the box we get a look at the figure itself. On the back we get a look at the figure in a bunch of different poses. These are all promotional shots that we've seen before. Up here we get a little bit of information about the Gargoyles. Over here we get another look at the figure itself. And then you could open this up just like all the NECA Ultimate figures. You're able to open this flap kind of like a book. We get some awesome photography of the figure over here. And then on this side, here it is, the main presentation, the big show, the reason why we're all here, the freaking Goliath figure. How crazy is that? And he is looking awesome. You can see the accessories in there. You can see his big ass wings back there, and it's crazy, man. I cannot wait to open this up. But enough about this beautiful box. Let's go ahead and take this figure out and take a look. All right, so here we have Goliath right out of the box, and as expected, this thing is a complete beast of a figure. One thing I want to point out right away is the fact that I had zero problems with any of the joints. I keep saying that NECA keeps getting better and better with their QC, and I would say that Goliath is the best example of that. I didn't have to warm up anything. I literally pulled him right out of a box and messed around with them. His joints freed up very easily. The only thing he did have was some paint chipping, but it was all inside the joints. Honestly, I saw some flakes of paint coming off of him, but I don't even know where they came from. I think they came from like inside the ball joint in the hips. I don't know why they paint that area, but whatever. They painted it, and you know, some paint chips fell off there. But aside from that, I had zero types of QC issues or any problems with the figure. So it was it was a huge relief. I did open it like on a live on Friday when I was talking to Robo, and you know, you could see in the live I take them right out of the box and start posing them up and have zero problems with it. So you know, again, NECA keeps getting better and better with it. But as far as the figure goes, like, man, look at this thing. It is such a beast. Like, it has these big, huge wings. The wings are pretty solid plastic, so they're kind of heavy, and they kind of make it hard for him to stand. And same thing kind of goes for his feet. They're just big and kind of awkward. Luckily, he has his tail, so you know, if you prop him up on his tail, you could pretty much get him to stand without any problem. But yeah, look at this guy, man. One thing that kind of makes me nervous about this figure, though, is his wings. Check this out. You'll hear this. It's like a super loud clicking noise when I articulate the wings. And what's cool about that is that it makes it so they're not just flapping around everywhere, but at the same time, it kind of makes me nervous to move the wings around. But look how big the wings are. I'm having trouble keeping them in frame. But man, it's just an impressive looking figure. It is kind of hard to handle and mess around with because the wings and just the awkward shape and the awkward design. But, you know, just having him standing on the shelf, it's just like a beautiful looking, just a piece of art, man. I just love the way it looks. And then taking a closer look, starting off with the head, I do think this is a very good looking head sculpt. I like the details. I like the big eyebrows, the big ears. I love how they put the purple around the eyes as well too, just to mix up the color a little bit. The facial expression is perfect for the character, so I think they did a really good job with this head sculpt. And then we do have the mullet ponytail hairstyle here. Looks like the hair is black, but there's a little bit of blue details in there. You can see it a little bit better back here actually. You can see the black and blue. It looks very nice. So yeah, they did a good job with this head sculpt. But moving on to the wings here. So the wings look very nice, and they have kind of like a metallic kind of look on this area here. Just check out all the detail on that. That looks pretty good. But I really like that metallic look. Looks pretty realistic, I guess you could say. Then over here I do have a little paint chip on mine, but not a big deal. But yeah, I think the details on the wings look really cool, and it kind of gives this figure a very interesting look. And then moving on to the body of the figure itself, it's kind of hard to see or to make out the color really. Like there's a little bit of purple in there. On camera, it mostly looks blue. Some of the dark areas look purple. But yeah, it's like a very, very light purple with a little bit of dark shading in there. But it does look good. And then moving down into his little apron or waist thing, I don't even know what you'd call this. The little strip of cloth covering his gargoyle private areas. This does look good. We've got a big belt right here. And then this has some really nice detail on it, as you could see. Yeah, it looks very nice. And then check out his hands. His hands look really cool. I like how they made the nails a different color. That looks good. Dang, the hands have like some of the most details with the veins, and you can see his like finger bones in there and stuff. Looks good. Same thing with the feet actually. The feet have like a lot of detail. As you could see, check out the toenails. Damn. Those look pretty crazy. And then yeah, it has like the rest of the skin has the same color that we saw before. A little bit of very, very light purple and then some dark shading. And yeah, I would say the figure does look really, really nice. A lot of good details, some pretty good painting. The wings look big and impressive and interesting because of that metallic color. And just in general, I think it's a very good looking figure. And then for accessories, Goliath comes with some good stuff, including 2 different heads. This is the first one. It's the one that we were just looking at. I do like this a lot. It's a very calm, serious look for Goliath, and I think it looks good. And then the other one here is a very angry Goliath. Here we got the white eyes, he's got the teeth showing, and he looks pretty terrifying, to be honest. So I like this head sculpt a lot, and I love that they included a calm head and an angry head, because that's definitely 2 sides of this character, you know. On one side, he's a very calm, caring leader, and then on the opposite side, he's a very terrifying, like vengeful being, you know, like he tries to hold it in. But yeah, this angry face kind of conveys that. So I do like this a lot. And then aside from the 2 awesome heads, he does come with some extra sets of hands. First off, we have an open set of hands, and then we have a pair of fists, and then we have a gripping hand, but only for the left side, and the gripping hand can be used to hold on to the book that he comes with or the jalapeno. And taking a close look at those accessories, starting off with the jalapeno, I think they did a good job with this. I think it looks pretty realistic actually. The stem has like a nice amount of detail on it, and it kind of looks like a lifelike plant stem. But anyways, that's a very cool accessory. And then we do have the book. The book looks really nice. You can see that we have some writing on the inside. I love the way the pages look here on the side of the book. They just look very old and worn down. Got a little bit of a wash in there to make it look aged. Same thing here on top. That looks very good. And then the cover of the book has like different shades of brown. We have some light brown. It gets darker. Then right here it just looks beat up and torn down. This book looks very, very old. But yeah, it looks good. The sculpt and the paint on it is very nice. Alright, so now for some size comparisons. Since I don't have any other characters that exist in the Gargoyles world, I'm going to kind of go all over the place with it. So starting off here, we have them alongside the Marvel Select Immortal Hulk and the Marvel Legends Deluxe Thanos. Next up, we have them alongside the NECA King Kong and the NECA Broken Tusk Predator. And then now here we have him alongside the NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Disguise Raphael, and the movie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Toka. And then here we have him alongside the McFarlane Toys Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn with the custom cape from High School Creations. And then on the opposite side, we have the DC UC Swamp Thing from Mattel. That's an old figure, but I still love it. Still looks awesome. Still holds up in my opinion. And then here we have him alongside the Super 7 Bebop and then the Marvel Legends Deluxe Venom. And then to get him in here with some 90s goodness, here we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Cyborg Spider-Man and the Shocker Toys Tick figure. I would love to see someone like NECA do a Tick figure. I think they would do a good job. And then here we have him alongside the Mafex Dark Knight Returns Triumphant Batman and the NECA DC vs. Dark Horse Batman. And then finally, we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Bucky Cap and Marvel Legends Pizza Spider-Man. And then here's a quick look of Goliath alongside Dragon Man. And I kind of wish that NECA did the wings on Goliath more similar to the way that Toy Biz did the wings on Dragon Man. He just has a ball joint in there. And, you know, this figure is old, but these wings are still pretty tight and still hold up pretty well. I don't know if after 20 years, the wings on the Goliath figure are going to hold up. But, yeah, I kind of also wish that Goliath came with some wings that were smaller and closer to the body, kind of like Dragon Man. I think that would be awesome too. Only reason I'm comparing these two is because they're both purple and they both have wings, and I love you, Dragon Man. Right, so now for the articulation, I'm going to say this figure does have good articulation, but he's just not the funnest thing to handle because of the design, the wings, and just there's a lot of stuff going on here that just makes it the figure kind of difficult to play with, you know. But you could definitely get him in cool poses and make him look awesome on your shelf, but you know, he doesn't have the highest fun factor in my opinion as far as like handling the figure goes, but he definitely brings value in other ways. But let's go ahead and get into it. Before we get into the articulation, I do want to talk a little bit more about the wings actually. So after a couple of days, like the wings were actually like were like really loose. The peg that goes into the actual figure became loose for some reason, and I'm not really 100% sure why. As you can see, they're still flopping around a little bit. But this is after me putting some super glue on the pegs to thicken them up a little bit. Before that, they wouldn't stay up like this whatsoever. They would balance for a second, and if I move the figure slightly, even like that, would cause the wings to just fall down. Like they would fall down, then fall off the figure. And I'm not really sure exactly what happened. I didn't take the wings off that many times, so I don't think that I damaged the peg or anything. But yeah, I'm just not sure what happened. But yeah, that's something that you definitely want to be aware of when you're handling the wings, that like these pegs might give you some issues. The pegs going into the figure themselves. And then another thing I had to do was, well, I didn't have to do this, but I chose to. I put a little drop of oil into this hinge here because if you remember that clicking sound from the beginning of the video, that was really making me nervous, man, because it was hard to move the wings. It was like I had to like put some force into it to get the wings to click and move. After putting a little drop of oil, now they move with no problems and they still hold, but the peg going into the figure itself is wearing down and just kind of giving me problems. So that does kind of suck, and I was getting really frustrated with this figure before I was able to thicken up those pegs. Once I did that and got it to the point where it's at now, you know, I became happy with it again. But for a minute, like when I woke up this morning, I grabbed the figure, started playing with it, and the wings just kind of like fell off, man. I was like getting all sad and shit, but you know, as it is right now, the wings are fine. So I do want to get another Goliath just to check out the wings again and see if I did something that I was unaware of. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into it, starting off with the wings. So the wings do have a hinge that go outward like that, so that's pretty good. And then they do have hinges that go up and down like that, so you get a little bit of movement out of the wings. I really do wish that there was a hinge right in here so that we could bring the wings down a little bit and maybe collapse them just so they're not so big and crazy. This is awesome. Like, I love the way this looks, but it's limited in terms of options, you know, and you might have to like come up with the whole display just around this figure. So hopefully they get us some more gargoyles sooner rather than later, because this guy's going to take up so much shelf space. You want to make it worth it with some other characters, you know. But yeah, these wings are crazy. It would have been nice to have another hinge in there to make them smaller. But they do articulate a little bit, so that's cool. And then for the head does move a little bit. So it moves side to side. It's on a double ball peg joint, so we get some pretty nice tilt out of it. Here we go. I'm making all kinds of shadows. That's driving me crazy. But yeah, there we go. We get some nice tilt out of the head, and then it does move side to side. The hair does kind of get in the way of looking up, you can only get him to look up to about right there. So it's going to be hard to get him in flight poses that require his head to look straight forward, you know, because the hair, that big crazy hair does get in the way. So it does move to right there. And then he's able to look down to right there, which is appropriate because he's pretty tall. So pretty good movement at the head. So I'm happy with that. And then for the torso, we do have a diaphragm cut, which he is able to twist at the diaphragm cut. He also has a waist swivel, so you can swivel there as well. And then at the diaphragm cut, you can move side to side. He could crunch forward only to about right there, so it's not a whole lot. Only crunches forward to right there. And then he could go back to only about right there. So not a whole lot of movement at the torso, but still pretty decent. And then for the arms, we do have ball joints at the shoulders. So these do go all the way around like that. They could come out to the side a really good amount. And then he does have upper bicep swivel. He's got double jointed elbows, which get a pretty good bend. Look at that. Bam. That's pretty good right there. And then he does have a swivel at the wrist and a hinge. And then for the legs, they do come out to the side a pretty decent amount. They could kick forward to about right there. They could come back to about right there. And they do have an upper thigh swivel. He has single jointed knees, which bend to right there, which is pretty good. A little bit more than 90. And there's also a swivel in there. And then he does have a hinge at the ankle. So it goes up and down, comes up to right there, goes forward to right there. And then he does have some rocking action going on. And then at almost the center of the foot, he has another hinge. It's not quite at the toes, but this hinge is pretty good too. Goes forward to there, comes up to right here. And there's also a peg in there. So the lower part of the foot could actually rotate a little bit if you want. You could tell that there's a peg in there, but it won't let you rotate all that much. Just rotates a little bit. And then lastly, he does have his tail, which rotates, and then it has a hinge. And then there's also a bendy wire. And I'm really happy that they included the bendy wire in the tail, because this thing is a lifesaver, because without that tail, he would not be able to stand up. But with the tail, you could get him to stand up without a whole lot of effort. And you know, the figure, like, there's a lot of weight to it between the wings and just the figure itself. So I feel like some of the joints are just gonna get like weak over time. I'm already having problems a little bit with the knee and the ankles. But yeah, thankfully they put this tail in, and it kind of makes it easier to figure out a way to get him to stand, you know, because he wouldn't be able to stand just on his 2 feet. So with the tail, you're definitely able to make it happen. But yeah, as far as the articulation goes, there's some good stuff going on here, but he is kind of difficult to handle because of the design, the wings, the feet, and just all the stuff we have going on here. So I will say that he's not the most fun figure to handle. The articulation is definitely there, and you could get him into some good poses, but it might take you some work and some frustration, but it's definitely possible. I would just say he doesn't have the highest fun factor, but I'm still pretty happy with the articulation on this guy. All right, so overall, at the end of the day, when the smoke clears, the dust settles, and the moon rises, I think this is an amazing looking figure. NECA did an incredible job of capturing the look from the animated series, and I think it's a great looking Goliath. It's gonna stand out in the collection. It has a presence to it. It's big. These wings are just like epic. It's gonna stand out. It's gonna be eye catching. People are gonna notice it when they walk into the room, and it's just something that looks very, very nice. I'm absolutely in love with the way that he looks. He's got some good articulation, but I will say the figure is not a whole lot of fun to handle just because the design, you know, you got the wings, the tail, the crazy feet, and just everything kind of makes it hard to sit there and want to play with this figure. But you can definitely get him into some cool poses and then put him on the shelf and just enjoy him that way. So in that regard, I feel like he does serve his purpose. So I am happy with that. I will say I do think they could have done the wings a little bit better, because as it is right now, I don't feel like these are going to hold up very well. Those pegs are going to get weak the more that you mess with them. That's what it seems like based on my experience here with this figure. I was able to fix mine using some super glue to thicken up the pegs, and it's been pretty good so far. So I'm happy I was able to make it work, but I will say the wings were really frustrating for a little bit there, because I just couldn't get them to stay up on their own. And, you know, I was getting kind of sad, you know, because I was all excited about this figure. And it was like, damn, these wings, man, they're kind of ruining the experience for me. But I was able to fix it. And now I'm good to go. But yeah, I would say this is an amazing figure, and I can't wait to see if NECA gives us more of the main cast. I want the whole squad, and I'd be down for a bunch of villains, and you know, as many characters as they want to give us. I'd be down for all of it. It would be dope to see them get as deep as they have with the Ninja Turtle stuff with Gargoyles. I think that would be awesome. Obviously, Gargoyles are not as popular as Ninja Turtles, so maybe it's unlikely that they would do that, but I would love to see them get really deep into the whole Gargoyles thing. And honestly, even though I really do like this figure, I would like to see them revisit Goliath, because NECA is a really great company, and I think they could figure out a better way to do the wings. And I'd also like to see a version of Goliath that had the wings down, because that was such a unique design choice, and I wish we could have been able to capture that in action figure form. But with this first release, you know, not quite yet, but hopefully they get to it in the future. He's the main character. He's the most known character, so I'm sure they'll revisit him. And then one thing I hope that NECA is able to improve on with future Gargoyles figures is the joints. None of the joints on Goliath feel bad or like they're gonna break or anything like that. In fact, in that regard, I think they're perfectly fine. But they do feel a little loose, or they don't feel like they're gonna hold up, especially in the legs, because, you know, his legs are kind of a weird design, you know, and the top of the figure is very heavy, so I just don't feel like the joints are gonna hold up in the legs. He definitely wouldn't be able to stand without the tail, so thankfully they have that. But if it wasn't for the tail, those joints would just buckle under the pressure of the wings. So being that a lot of the Gargoyles characters do have wings, hopefully NECA's able to figure out a better way to handle that, and maybe just, I don't know, use different types of plastic for the knee joints or for all the joints, just so they're able to hold up longer and they're able to stay tighter for a longer period of time, you know. I think they could do a little bit better in the future. I'm very happy to have this, and I can't help but be excited when I look at this figure, because I've wanted Gargoyles for so long, but I do feel like NECA could do a little bit better with Goliath, and hopefully they do. But if they never do, I'm super happy to finally have a Goliath figure, and I'm proud to own this figure, and I'm going to be happy every time I see it in my collection. But I'm definitely not going to be playing around with this figure all that much, because the fun factor isn't as high as it is on some other figures. But I am very happy with the way this guy looks, and he's going to be awesome on the shelf. And with that, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Before I get out of here, I want to give a huge shout out to Vasco Toys for hooking me up with this awesome backdrop that looks really good with Goliath. So shout out to him. I'll leave his information in the description below. And also be sure to leave a thumbs up on this video if you enjoyed it. Also, feel free to leave a comment letting me know what you think of this figure and just the video in general. Be sure to subscribe if you're not subscribed already. I'm still trying to get to 50,000 by the end of the year, so your help would be definitely appreciated. Thank you so much. Peace.